Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you, black heart, black mind, black in. Again, hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. So let me go ahead and just tell y'all what this is about. You see the title, you have short attention span, so you're going to ask me naturally, hey, look, what is it, black? And I'm going to tell y'all straight away that the other reason you cannot save her is because, simply put, her judgment, her ability to assess the manhood of any man is so bad that by itself would stop you from being able to save her. So what about that in combination with the other things we've already talked about? The things you've said in the comments, things some of you have said in your own content, and things I have said in my content and in comments. What about the combination? And when I say she cannot even assess your manhood, what I mean is that just like we already know that women in general only want maybe between 13 to 20% of the men they see, and all the rest of the men are not only not her type, but outright unattractive. There's a similar pattern that goes with their ability to assess the manhood of a man, and what they understand to be the manhood of a man. So in other words, there are too many men in the world for everybody to either be an Urkel or Satan. You understand? Or a crime boss or something. Men who dominate and have other men afraid of them, and who give orders that are binding on men that are addressed in these orders. So, there are those men on one extreme, the crime bosses, Satan, if you will, Dracula, werewolf, very authoritarian and scary men. And on the opposite extreme, of course, they're the Urkels. And both of them are pretty rare in terms of the percentage of the population. Most men ain't gonna sit up here and just be no pushover, weak, punk, wimp, because that's not a very good survival tactic either. You wouldn't last long if you were going to be. So those men must be rare. And usually, in order for them to live long, they gotta be undetected or isolated. That's usually what happens in that case anyway. So if they're undetected and isolated, the chances of women actually meeting and being able to identify those men are very slim. If I really was that kind of man, I just couldn't take up for myself, and I was consistently being targeted, then the chances are, in order to survive, I would live in isolation, or I'd learn to not be noticed out in the public. Well, if that's the case, I would have a very, very low chance of even being identified as such by women correctly, right? But unfortunately, the Western woman, on top of the way that they view men as being attractive or unattractive, naturally because they're women, not because they're Western, we also know that the few men that they like, they all agree that they all agree on the same few men they're going to like. So whatever that 13 to 20% is for one woman, it's the same for the next woman, because the Western women have that hive mind. So it's not like she has her 13 to 20% and the lady next to her has her 13 to 20%, and there may be a 4 to 8% overlap. It's not like that. No, the Western women have the same 13 to 20% of men. That's what they got. And they're all going to compete for that. That's why, as we already know, most men have very few bedroom partners over their lifetime, and most women rack up, 3-digit body counts. That's what's going on here. So, in addition to even that, look at the way they assess manhood. Are you really a man, and a man's man, and a confident man, an authoritarian man, or are you a wimp, weak pushover? Well, a boss and a pushover are two ends of the dominance hierarchy. But there are so many men in the United States, let alone in the West, let alone in the world, that every man can't fall into one of only two categories. Simply put, the population is so wide and is so big that there must be diversity, that this is not simply binary like that. It's not really like gender. And if you're going to assign Greek letters to describe these men, even then, what are there, 29 Greek letters or 26? So it's a lot of ranks you're going to have. It's a lot of them. And unfortunately, we understand that the Western witch can't see but two. You're either up there with crime bosses and Satan and Hitler and brutal dictators, or you are at the bottom and everybody else is beating you up, slapping you, taking your lunch money, maybe even physically violating you, and you become the prison B word. And they can't really see much else. That right there, that view that they have, the dominance and the manhood of men and the rank of men, is another reason you can't save them. They oversimplify it. Now, most of us men, because we're not what women want, we're not what most women want anyway, have to face one particular barrier. They say, you must get to know me. You must have forged a deep connection with me. And we already know, due to the internet and social media, thank the Lord for them, that when they say that, they're polishing somebody else's family jewels for free. We understand that. They're keeping somebody else's junk shiny if it's exposed to the light. But for the bulk of us, it's either no way or, well, okay, you need to get to know me and then I'll give you a chance. It's usually like that. But they're not willing to understand you because they're oversimplifying their assessments of you. And that's it. So even in their views of your manhood, they don't get to know you to find out exactly where in this complex scale and spectrum you are. No, it's if you're not issuing orders and snapping your fingers and other men are afraid and they carry your orders out, then you're on the opposite end, the opposite extreme. You're the one you're the one that not only got his lunch money taken in high school, but got raped in high school. They only see it that way. They don't see it only those two ways are it. That's it. Now, of course, Karen, Becky, and Amber might be willing to consider to be alpha, the boy in school that skipped a few classes, maybe did a little graffiti tagging, got a tat, and that was about it. And these are all misdemeanors or not even illegal. And they might be impressed with that. But we already know in that regard, specifically, yes, the Western sister is worse than her Western European counterpart. Because we already know when it comes to the Western sister, you got to be a felon with some cell block tattoos. And you need to have some bodies too. Ninjas need to be afraid of you. Even other thugs need to be afraid of you, or else you're wearing lipstick on the prison yard. That's all there is. They don't see nothing else. Ain't no in between. You either slapped around all these other dudes or you one of the dudes getting slapped around. They can't see anything in the middle with it. Just not, they don't have that capacity, and I might be oversimplifying their capacity, but for the most part, they have a tendency to oversimplify that. Maybe they can see 3 categories, but even then, they don't see the full nuance. And we also know one other thing when it comes to the Western sister. If you are in a conflict, if it's just an argument that you get into with another man and she's around, your relationship's over. Because the only right way to handle that, once as far as she's concerned, is the way that's going to put you in a graveyard or on death row. You got to take penitentiary chances to keep her. To handle that argument in a way that she would deem you worthy. Now, when you take those chances, again, you must either wind up in the graveyard or you must wind up in the cell block. So that's problematic enough. That means you can't stay with her anyway. So understand that when you with that wicked witch of the west, there's no right way to handle it. You can't stay. Y'all can't stay. There's nothing you can do. So that's another reason you're not going to be able to save her. She's not even capable of understanding. If you try to save her, she's already incapable of understanding who that is extending a hand to help her pull her about the muck and the mire. She automatically can't grasp even that. And so therefore, there's nothing you can do. Gentlemen, it doesn't matter which acronym you use. Makes no difference which Walaikum salam. It doesn't matter which acronym you use, and it doesn't matter which reason you have for going to travel to these other nations. Whichever one it is, you must keep in mind that you're not going to be able to pull off this rescue, and that's the end of it. Because you can't even be properly identified and recognized by the party you seek to lift up out of the muck and mire. Thank you for listening. Black heart, black mind, blackout. Black, heterosexual, non-select, male power just because they don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.